Hello, and welcome back to another Overwatch VOD review. I'm Scorch24. Today we're going to be looking at some Lucio gameplay at the Diamond rank on King's Row. We have our submission by the user Imi. Today's video is going to focus a lot on how Lucio integrates with his team, and how his abilities can outposition the enemy team to set your own team up for really strong engagements that will hopefully win the fight almost every time. So, without any further ado, we're going to jump into this gameplay. And at moments, we will hop into game just so I can probably show you a little bit deeper explanation about what I'm trying to show you. So, let's get on. Now, this video clip was submitted before the 222 patch went live. Luckily, both teams do stay to the 222 the entire time, but you might notice some like older patch adjustments that are in this gameplay. So yeah, during this first engagement here, you had really good positioning, and it ends up falling apart a little bit in the streets phase, and we'll talk more about that. But as a Lucio player, you're doing everything that you need to be doing right now. You are looking for targets who are out of position, you're speeding in onto them. If you can boop them back towards your team, that's what you're doing. And overall, just really great positioning, great play right now during this first engagement. Great job playing the statue. As a Lucio player, you don't want to stay too far away from any kind of walls. Like being in the middle of these weird spots can get you caught out, and it almost got you caught out there. But you can use walls to your advantage to escape out of things. And that's like the first bad positioning mistake you made. This is something that reoccurs a lot during your gameplay, so I'm going to point it out now, and you'll see it in a few other moments later on. But when your Mei walls off the tanks, there's no need for you to go in and engage on the tanks because they have nowhere to go already. If you were to boop them towards your team now, it's not as valuable as booping them towards your team when that Mei wall goes down and they actually have a chance to escape. Also, this puts you at in a lot of danger already because you have the far right above you. You end up figuring that out the hard way. But if you had just stayed a little bit further back, allowed your tanks to engage on their tanks who were caught out and your DPS, so your only job during that moment is to just protect your team. So instead of engaging here, we could have stayed a little bit further back and then been a part of this EMP that your Sombra does. Really good job on your team trying to scrap that one out, but Bard does have her ult. It's going to end up getting a lot of kills here. Okay, so this re-engagement is actually really important, and something that I need to, that I hope other Lucio players also learn is this re-engagement. Now, I know your first instinct as a Lucio player is I need to get back to point as soon as possible so I can recontest, but think about how your team just died. You were one of the first people down, which means that you're going to be in spawn first. Now, if you speed back to the point as fast as you can and you don't wait for any of your teammates, you're going to offset your next death way farther than the rest of your team. So you can consider yourself out for the next like 2 fights. So instead, what you could have done here, your Zarya's low here, but I think she's backing off to go for a health pack or something. Even if she dies, you have 5 teammates behind you that you could probably re-engage with. You have your Mei. Your Mei was coming out of spawn at the same time as you. So you could have waited and taxied her to point, or you could have waited also for your Sombra to catch up. And then your Zarya, if she survives, can re-engage with you on point, and that becomes a 4v4, I think, given what we see here the feed. So that's gonna increase your odds of holding this first point a lot more than you trying to go in and stall on this first point by yourself. So let's just see how this plays out. So your Zarya's behind you, but their Zarya comes in full power. Maybe we can go over some rollouts too. You know what? Good job holding your ult there, though. I think you were kind of in the understanding that there's no way your team's going to be able to hold that point unless you all had a regroup. So holding your ult there is the best for this next fight. Could have used speed amp to help you get a little further. Okay. We need to talk about ult tracking. We have a cheat sheet because you use the replay system to help us out. But if you think about what ultimates were used during the first, or I would say the most recent team fight. So before you did all the engagements by yourself, you need to start thinking about who has used their ults since then on the enemy team. Lucio, I find when I'm playing Lucio, it's easier for me to track those ultimates because I'm looking at the overall fight versus just my individual 1v1s that I'm taking. As a Lucio player, you need to really focus on moving your team. You need to focus on how you engage as a team. And unfortunately, with the replay system, we can't hear any callouts that you're making. So I don't know if certain strategies are being talked about during these engagements. At Diamond, I kind of expect some, but not to the level that would make these engagements very clean. So you need to be tracking these ultimates as they're going. Now, let's think back. We know that the Pharah did use her ultimate when your Reinhardt tried to hold point with you, and ended up getting some kills. Now that was really early on, and we can see in her spot, she's almost up to a next barrage. The one character that, as Lucio, you need to be like hyper aware of is the Sombra, because your ultimate gets destroyed if she ults after you. And we haven't seen her ultimate yet. And so now you need to be playing this mind game with her of who's going to press Q first. Is it going to be you and hope like she doesn't ult and realize that, or she needs to ult first and you need to be hiding? So let's see how this plays out. So you're all engaged as a team. Again, a little too close to those tanks. If the Pharah had any better awareness, she could have killed you there. And the EMP comes after your beat. So I actually really don't... Let me just take another look at this use of beat. That's when you're initiating it. What leads you to think you need to beat right now? Okay, so you just saw your Zarya go critical and you got worried, you pressed Q. You could have held on to this a little bit longer, just because there were no ultimates on the enemy team coming out. As a Lucio, I try to save my beat for when like a powerful like team affecting ult is going to happen. For example, the Zarya grab. A really good time to be using your ultimate is when she uses it on your team. Whether or not you're stuck in it, using it will basically negate the grab. I don't necessarily always use my beat when the Reinhardt shatters, partially because I'm usually stuck in the the shatter. But even if the Reinhardt shatters, there's a window of time that as a Lucio player, you can prevent a lot of damage on your team without using beat. Primarily using your boop to get the Rhine to either like fly above your team as he charges in, just reposition him away from your team so that that damage doesn't happen. And if your other support is safe as well, they can be providing the primary healing onto your team. Very few circumstances would I use beat against Shatter. Um, and then again, the Somber ult. If she EMPs and you are not caught in it, it's a really good time to be using your beat because it will negate any damage to come on that could be used against your team like right away, and it gives you time to speed boost your team away from the fight, so you can wait until all your abilities come back online. So yeah, just keep track of ultimates a little bit better. We're gonna have a couple more cases of ult tracking in this video, so when we get to those, we'll see if you can realize the mistake before it happens. Okay, so we are on Streets phase now of King's Row, and I want to... Actually, I'll do that on the attack. We'll explain, we'll go into detail on Streets phase of King's Row. So this team is actually executing King's Row Streets like really well, in that they're pushing really far up to create a lot of space. And I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. This is just a recontest. I'm not really too concerned about analyzing it. Luckily, your team does pull off a really good recontest. Okay. So this third fight, we haven't seen the Mercy Valk in a long time, and Pharah's coming up to another barrage. Your team initiates with a Shatter. Not a fan of that grab personally, but really good repositioning on your part, using that high ground to get away from the Pharah ult. I'm not too upset with that use of beat. That was pretty... It was safe if you were talking with your team. But I wonder if you realize you were not using your healing during this amp. So that probably could have saved your team a little bit more. Yeah, because your Zarya does end up getting killed. You get EMP'd. And then I don't think your team's able to really fight this one out. Yeah, Ryan goes down. Okay. So in this fight here, we're gonna focus on when to use your speed boost. So you could have used it already. The enemy team starts off with a Coalescence. Your Maze caught out here. If the enemy team was smart, they could, well, they don't have a Lucio anymore, but they could try and go and fight this Mei and kill her early. So what you should be doing is using your speed boost to back your team probably around this corner to the right side, because the left side is a hole. But on the right side here, it will negate any damage dealt by Coalescence. It gives your team time to, just top off on the healing, and then you can speed back in and re-engage. Because your Reinhardt's kind of a sitting duck right here. I don't know why he's kind of sitting there right now. Reinhardt's coming behind you. Okay, and this is when we want to be using speed boost. We get one good kill, and the Reinhardt is incredibly out of position. So if you were to call for a speed boost, tell your team to push up, you'll get this kill onto Reinhardt super quick. And then you could use your speed boost to go up onto this wall. You're pretty full health. Try to get some boops on this. I think that's a Moira. Over to the left here, and maybe allow your team more time to chase these kills. Yep, good use. And here you can try to chase this kill, but you really don't have anything for long range. All right, and this is when you want to be speed boosting back. So as soon as you see their 2 tanks come back, you need to be speed boosting your team back behind the corner. Your Zarya has already hit critical, and you have 4 more seconds on your amp. As a Lucio, if your team is being engaged upon, no amount of your healing, even if you have amp, will save them. Your best bet is to let them take the damage and speed them out. Hope that your other support is going to heal them as they do retreat a bit, and then heal them all the way up. Because if they just stay here taking damage, they're gonna be out. Like your healing will not save them. So you need to speed them out faster, and make sure that you're calling for that. It's a good shatter. Again, I don't know why the Zarya likes to use her grab every single time we use shatter. And your Reinhardt just went down. And you are hacked. So you got hacked kind of early here. As soon as you get hacked, don't engage. Just fall backwards. Tell your your Zarya to fall back because your Ryan's already dead at this point. Yeah, and definitely don't cross to where they get more sightlines on you, because that will get you killed. Yeah, so you definitely shouldn't have gone to the left here. You now have 4 people looking at you. Luckily, your team's pretty good at holding this. No need to use your speed boost there. Let your wall ride get you back to your team faster. That way you're saving your amp for when you're with your team. Okay, you're hacked this time. You do fall back, which is really good. And we're going to talk a little bit about reactionary beats versus planned beats. The reactionary beats hardly work. And that's coming from a lot of experience because I used to make reactionary beats a lot until I started to look at like how pros use their beats. So when you have beat or you're coming up to it, you need to start thinking, when do I actually want to be using my ult for this? Now, their Zarya grabbed before you got your beat. Then you got your beat at the same time that the forest started to ult. So the use of it beat there wasn't really thought out, and it was very reactionary, which was kind of a waste because your 2 teammates ended up dying before your beat was able to get off. So you need to be thinking about the proper times to use beat, and if you're not able to charge up your ultimate by the time that whatever circumstance you have put in place for when you will use it, just don't use it, you know. So if you were saying I'm going to use my ultimate when Zarya uses her grav, but you don't have your ultimate yet, then when Zarya grabs, don't use your ultimate even if you just got it. Especially when you haven't seen ultimates from their DPS in a while. Instead, you could have saved your ultimate for the re-engage that will take place because you guys still have plenty of time to come back, especially when 3 of your teammates are dead. You'll have time to recontest here. Some really good kills here. Great target prioritization. It really helps your team be able to recontest. Your Mei does really good with her walls. Good reposition there. Good job going after your Ryan. You probably could have gone a little farther to save him and use your amp, but that's okay. Great use of your beat. And I can definitely see you playing this right side to boot people left, so that's really smart as a Lucio on this point. You could try to boot people into the Mei freeze if you wanted to, but looks like you guys are handling this pretty well. Don't be afraid to just take a little bit of a step back during these recontests. This is for all heroes. When you have someone running around the cart like that, if you just take a little bit of a step back away from the cart, if you can afford it, you'll be able to kill the enemy a little bit sooner. Okay, so let's think here. We have a small glimpse into the enemy comp. We see a soldier in the top right on this high ground here. We only have a Mei and a McCree, so our McCree should kind of be focusing this soldier to try and either push him back into this health, well, what's the word? Health pack, um, or kill him. That would be preferable. But if we are not careful here, we will end up dying to this soldier if we just ignore him. In some cases, if like the hero's a projectile hero, leaving them up here while you just take a 5v6 down here is sometimes better, but that's only if like your Mei uses her wall to block off his line of sight, or if your team is just really confident and able to kind of count what am I trying to say here? Like just count for the damage that's going to be coming in for free on the side. If your team can out heal it, then great. You can go in for the engagement and try to win it that way. Otherwise, you're going to have to think of strategies of how to get this guy off the high ground. So again, you did the boost into the Rhine there. Luckily, the enemy team couldn't do anything. But if they had the Pharah, she probably could have killed you there. All right. And for some reason, even after we got one pick, we end up losing this fight almost. Very close here. So I just want to point this out because this is what I was talking about with the soldier being left uncontested on the high ground. Here. So you're going to be able to wall off this Rhine and get the kill onto him. So this is going to take the fight from a 6v6 to a 5v6 in your favor. Now, you should be taking this engagement a little slow. A lot of people think that as soon as you get one pick, the fight's over, especially on the main tank, that you guys can just walk in, take point, and that's it. But there's a lot of things that can happen during this transition of your team finding the next target and at the same time trying to capture point that can get you killed. And in your case, it does. And I believe one of your other teammates gets caught out here. So we'll take this kind of slow here. So we only see 3 enemies here, and we're engaging with our Reinhardt and Zarya. Your Mei just got picked off by a Hanzo. I actually have no idea where this Hanzo is, so he might actually be on the high ground with the soldier right now. So you need to be thinking, okay, should Reinhardt be blocking damage from the Hanzo and the soldier to the right, while our Zarya and the rest of the team, minus Mei, pushes here? Or do we want to go around to the high ground, push them off, and get them all to group up here? Remember, you have a faster spawn. So even though Mei died, what, like 2 seconds after their Reinhardt, your Mei's going to get back faster, which will give you guys time to get more kills. So this is kind of what you should be thinking of and communicating. Okay, so the soldier went to the low ground, but Hanzo just got another pick in the top right. Your Ryan is just going to pop off here like a madman. And barely survive too. Like, really impressive that he survives. But you're able to still capture point, just because your Ryan is amazing. Good use of your auditory cues. It even looked like your Zarya knew what was going on. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about. King's Row, Streets phase. It's one of my most favorite parts of any map, just because it's so so good for a Lucio player. Like, it's amazing. I'm gonna hop into game right now and kind of show you what I mean by that. Okay. Check this out. So, you've captured first point. Congrats. Great job. Now, as this payload is coming out, it takes about, I want to say, like 5 to 8 seconds for it to be usable. What I mean by that is that no matter how many people you have sitting right here, it's going to take 5 to 8 seconds for that payload to register that there are players next to it for it to start moving. So during that time, as a Lucio player, you want to be speed boosting your team to go and get any residual spawns that are coming in. Bad players will usually come out this way as the payload is being taken, or I mean the first point is being captured. So they're thinking I can go and recontest, and even if I can't recontest, I'm gonna sit here. Well, you need to deny that as soon as possible. Now, if the entire enemy team gets wiped at the same time, and they're all able to get this first spawn as you capture the point, then this strategy doesn't work out too well. But the chances of that happening are very rare, especially at the lower ranks when a lot of people are staggering their kills. So you want to take this first point, tell your tanks and your DPS have only one person on cart. Now, who stays on cart is kind of a debate, and it depends on the characters that you have in play. But generally speaking, having one DPS player on cart that has mobility abilities with them, they should be the ones that stay on cart. So, for example, your Tracer, your Pharah, Sombra, Soldier, those kind of guys. They should be staying on cart because if your team gets into a fight, they can get off cart for like a couple seconds and fight with you before returning back. So you tell your team, we're going to speed forward, press W through King's Row. You get any exit kills that you can. This makes that anyone who's coming from here is going to, maybe it's going to be like 3-4 people if you can get like 1 or 2 kills here. And that already puts you at a 5v4, which should win you this fight anyway. Now, if the team is smart, they're going to wait. They're going to wait till everyone respawns because Streets phase is long. Like, it will take, even if you had 3 people on cart, which I don't recommend, even if you have 3 people on cart, it's going to take like at least a minute or 2 to get the cart all the way through Kings. So, what does the speed boost do for you? If your team is able to get these exit kills from the first point spawn on the defender side, and you're forcing the enemy team to group up, waste time, and then engage on you, your team can be pushed up to here to fight, or even up to here, right? We saw that the enemy team was up here fighting against you shortly after they contested first point. And the cart should be probably, I want to say like here. Remember, with your DPS on cart around here, they can use their mobility to join you around this corner for a little bit, get the team wipe, and then this is when I would recommend getting 3 people onto cart for a little bit, because as the enemy team is respawning, if you've won the fight, cart moves up pretty quickly up to here before the enemy team can re-engage. And odds are, if they see that the card is here with no one close to being able to contest, they're just going to give it up and take the fight up to here. And we literally just repeat the same thing onto third point. So let's say you won this fight, the cart was here, you're able to contest. Let's say they have some people trickling back or trying to get out. Use your speed boost, call for an engage, get onto the people here, get those exit kills, and you guarantee getting the cart up to here. And I believe in your gameplay on attack, you actually end up executing this. And I don't know if that was on purpose or just by accident, just because I can't hear the callouts. But that's what you want to do on King's Row pretty much the entire game after you get that first point capture. Okay, so we see the cart coming out. Your DPS should be pushed up. Someone's contesting the cart. Interesting. All right. And just like before, as soon as you see Coalescence come out, speed boost your tanks and any other remaining DPS that might be forward back behind cover. You negate the Coalescence. You don't have to use any cooldowns or abilities to make sure people get stay full health. And all you did to negate that ultimate was use your speed boost amp. Careful using the side room like you are. It's a very easy place to get caught out, especially as a Lucio. Okay. There was a little bit of stacking of ultimates there. Both of you were trying to save your Reinhardt, and I'm talking about your Ana. Both of you were trying to save your Reinhardt. If you could communicate, just like how we were talking before, with when you yourself should be telling your. Wow, let me try to explain that again. There was stacking of ultimates here. With your Ana, she was trying to save your Reinhardt, and so were you with your beat. Instead, just like our conversation before, where you're telling yourself when you will be using your beat, you need to be telling your other support when you're going to be using your beat. So that way, they are not going to use their ultimate to save character when you're going to be saving your entire team. So just keep that in mind when you're in these matches, so you don't do this again. Luckily, you didn't get killed by that Reinhardt. A little bit more use of your wall ride here could help out. If you're only looking to reposition with your boops, definitely use your wall ride. Aiming while riding is very difficult. Even I have trouble with it, and a skill that I definitely need to get better at. But booping while you're wall riding is pretty easy. So if you're looking to reposition enemy team members, just wall ride while you do it. So great engagement here. Like that, this was exactly what you needed to do. Your Ryan goes balls to the wall and just destroys 2 people with 1 single charge. But that speed boost encouraged him. You'll find that most Reinhardt players, if they're like Reinhardt mains, they love having a Lucio that is aggressive with them, because you have a lot of abilities that enable Reinhardt to be over aggressive and not be able to get punished for it. You know, if he pushes in a lot and deals some damage and gets low health, you can use your beat, you can use your speed boost to get him out. Like, you have so many things that can help enable great Reinhardt play, especially on King's Row. Now, I think he was trying to do the same Reddit charge again. I don't know why. Um, but hey, it ends up getting this fight pretty far, I think. Great target prioritization there. Their Hanzo doesn't realize that if you swap while the ult's going, it goes away. So this is pretty risky positioning. I want to just take another look at this because, you know, as a Lucio player myself, I might have done the same thing. But let me just see. Okay, so your Doomfist ulted. Their team is all to the left there. You try to go for the Moira, which was pretty good. You have your B. Yeah, so I'm not upset with that. And you get a really good boop. So yeah, that was just really good play there. I had a feeling you knew you had your B to save you if you needed it. So, all right. So one thing that I wanted to cover that I did mention earlier is using your wall ride and learning to shoot as you are doing so. This can come in handy a lot of times when, you know, you're trying to just stay out of like enemy line of sights or just make yourself a harder target to hit while also still contributing to the fight itself. So this wall here is really good to practice just like the wall ride by itself, but also um, aiming your cursor in a direction and like getting those hits. Obviously, you can slow yourself down by just using your healing, um, and then off the wall. Um, you can also practice, you know, swapping directions while on the same wall. I think you have to aim a little bit in the direction that you want to go, because I just fell off the wall there without doing that. So obviously you start your wall ride, and then you go back the other way, and I failed again. So yeah, it does take practice. It's a skill that I'm trying to learn myself right now, just because I find myself kind of out of position, and I can definitely make use of the walls a little bit more, and maybe that won't get me out of position. So yeah, just take some time, find some random walls. This second point of Gibraltar all around is actually really good for this, because you can just, you know, glide along the walls and pretty much not be interrupted. So find points like this on different maps to get comfortable, to practice around, and eventually you'll just be riding these walls, no problem. The next thing that I wanted to show you that I've kind of recently discovered with Lucio is if you really want to practice getting your wall ride boosts, which means you use your wall ride and then you immediately jump off onto another wall to increase your speed. This starting attacker spawn in Rialto is really good for that. So each of these posts are a really good distance apart that if you don't have enough speed, you're not going to make it. So if you like try to, let me try this better. So if you like hop off too early, you're really not going to get it. It has a little bit of leeway, but if you practice it and use the double tap Lucio trick, you can perfectly space these apart so you get the maximum amount of speed. It's just really good for practicing your wall rides, you know. Start from the ground. And you'll notice that with Lucio, his wall ride naturally elevates the player. So you'll see how I'm just gradually going upwards by reinitiating my wall ride. If you look down, you kind of reduce it. If you look up, you make it more prominent. So just keep that in mind when you're wall riding. If you're trying to get through like something that has a ceiling, just look down a little bit. It'll reduce the amount of upwards pull it gives you. And yeah, this is just a really good spot to practice the wall rides. If you didn't see my previous video where I explained a little bit more about rebinding a secondary jump key for Lucio, I highly recommend this. A lot of the pro players do this as well. So if you go into your control settings, go to Lucio, you can see that I have rebound a secondary key for jump to my scroll wheel. You can do this with any other key that you will feel comfortable with, but from what I've seen of most high-level players, it's always space and the scroll wheel. Either direction, the keybind is different. So if you have it for forward, then it will only jump when you scroll upwards. You can also rebind it to scroll down, but I'm not going to do that because I don't know what else is there. Oh, previous weapon, I suppose. But anyway, that's going to take care of it for today's video. If you like what you saw, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a video each week, so every Sunday you can expect a new video to go live. If you would like to get your own VOD reviewed, check our Discord link in the description where you can find details on how to submit your own VOD for review. I'm Scorch24, we'll see you next time.